Hey everybody, great to see you here again at the Red Barn. Thanks for stopping in. Apologize I didn't get an episode out last week. I was waiting for a bunch of parts and there wasn't much to report, but we're back at the Ferrari Swap 914. And as I think many of you know, my wife and I are involved with the cat rescue, so if you watch till the end, you'll get an update on our first medical rescue, Wazo, the one-eyed wonder kitty, and he is doing great, so hope you stick around and watch that. Remember, like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, and let's get back to work on this swap. Hope you enjoy. Well, I gotta say, that's pretty good for round one. I mean, it got all but the nastiest stuff, and even some of this stuff, if you go at it with your fingernail or a little plastic, you know, scraper, it comes off. So I'm gonna give this one more go and see what that does. Kind of cool. Anyway, I'm gonna see how much more of this I can get off and see what we can do to get it wrinkle blacked. Well, all right, check that out. That is two and a quarter rounds of stripper, and man, I could not be happier. That was a lot easier than I thought it might be. So I am going to give a Red Barn 5-star seal of approval to this Duplicolor Automotive Prep Series Industrial Strength Paint Stripper. This stuff is great, at least on Ferrari air oil separators. I can't tell you how it works on anything else, but gosh, I don't know, was it maybe a total of 30 minutes of you know, working on that? And it is, you know, yeah, you can still see some traces, but by the time that wrinkle gets on there, it is not going to be visible at all. Like I said, very mechanical looking in raw aluminum, but I don't think it quite fits the vibe of the build. But yeah, lovely, lovely, lovely. So yay, that worked out great. Now to try the VHT Wrinkle Black and see how this thing turns out. All right, here it is with 2 coats. And it needs a third, and I got a few more minutes to wait on this, but you can already see it's starting to wrinkle. And you know, the fun part is it's got an underneath side, so I'm doing the underneath first, sort of to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do, and then I'll flip it back over and then do the much more visible part. So yeah, this is the VHT High Temperature Wrinkle Plus, and you know, home done. It's looking pretty good so far. It's starting to wrinkle up just like it's supposed to. It's got one last coat, and we'll see how this turns out. Not great video, but there's coat 1. I moved it into the shade, flipped it over. The bottom's turning out pretty nice. Flipped it over and gave it coat 1. It's all smooth and nice and shiny still. So it just got put on. You wait 5 minutes between coats. Well, that's the third coat, and a little bit of time in the sun. I don't know if you're supposed to do that. I've been rotating it here every few minutes, and I mean, wow, it looks, I don't know if I'd call it OEM, but I mean it's definitely wrinkly finished, and it's pretty consistent. It looks really good, you know. So I gotta say, between the paint stripper and the VHT High Temp Wrinkle Plus, another 5-star review for this stuff. Boy, oh boy, that looks great. And when that plenum gets back, it's going to be super cool looking. Lots of little things to do. The intake mounting studs were off the car, so I got some new ones. And this is kind of a cool tool. I've never had one of these before. A stud remover installer. It's a lot easier than double nutting these things. It just goes right over the stud and grabs it evenly and just right down till it, you got to be careful you don't run the tool into the part you're threading the stud into, but a little bit of blue Loctite on there. And in the background there you see the scanner, and so I went in and scanned the intake manifold mounting surface, reverse engineered those locations, and even went so far as to put some fancy extrusions on the back, completely unnecessary. And so that's why I made this one red, because a red is for the right side of the engine. And just, I could have designed it slightly differently, but I actually just traced the my drawing went around the base of the manifold mount, and so each side is slightly, it's reversed. So anyway, we got red for the right, blue for the left, and we have a nice tidy little protector to go to keep crap from falling into the motor whilst the intake manifold's off. And I built this because at this point the lift does not go high enough. My quick jack there does not go high enough to get the engine out of the car with the intake manifold on it. So until I have a different solution, if ever, I need to pull the manifold off. So if that's going to happen whenever the motor goes in and out, which hopefully isn't a lot, but inevitably will happen at some point, I want to be able to protect everything in a nice tidy way, not have tape, not shove rags down in there. So we got a nice little setup for that. So a number of you have commented about, this section of the suspension console and, hey, a bunch of junk's going to end up back in there. What are you going to do about that? So I imported the DXF file that was originally used to create the sheet metal piece that is that suspension console cover. And I used that to build out the basic shape. And if I reorient this, you'll see this little teeny inside section that's the middle of this notch. That is the shape of the opening in the console. And so I took that shape and just built out this model around it, including, bending it around the corner, if you will, and adding this little pull tab at the bottom to make it easier to pull off. And then I tried to, dress it up a little bit by adding some embossing and things like that and some fillets on the corner. So here you can see how that turned out. You can see that I think the texture is probably coming through. This outer surface, because remember it was printed like this on the printer. And so this outer surface texture is the texture it picks up from the build plate. And the texture here and here in the embossed areas are the surface texture that it picked up from the support material that's laid down to fill those gaps, if you will, because of that embossing. And then the lower portion, which has this completely ratty section, is because A, it was printed against support material, but B, the support material wasn't sticking properly. And, again, that's on me. I've got settings that I'm sure I got wrong. But that approach isn't going to work because I want the part to be consistent. It fits okay, but it doesn't look anywhere near good enough. And so I ended up going back and trying something different. I ended up printing it standing up. And you can see this is now showing you the support material. And at first I thought, there's no way this thing's going to print this, standing straight up, but it sure does. But here, let's go take a look at what came out of this and how it looks in the car. And I'm sure it's not going to be taken in and out 100 times during its life, but I'm really pleased with this. It's a little fiddly putting it in, but once it's in, it's not going anywhere. That's awesome. So other than the surface finish, so I'll keep chipping away at that. But in terms of the design and the execution and the function, I think I've achieved the goal I set out to achieve. All right, now I get all excited about this, and then I'm sitting here and I'm glancing around at things, and one of the things I glance over at is the engine cradle, and I realize I completely forgot that the engine cradle sits here and comes out. So this tab has to go. But, what else is new? I get to redo it again. So the good news is we're right on track for how we always do things here at the Red Barn. If that doesn't get me a like, a share, and a subscribe, just the comedic relief from the way I approach my builds should be worth something, hey? Okay, I just finished printing the latest version of this cover, and literally it's just finished printing, so it's still a little bit warm in there. And so you can see, you can just peel these guys right off the build plate. And here's how it comes out. I thought you'd get a kick out of this. And here you can see, this is the support material. It just happens to be blue PLA. And that's just taking care of the embossing, because remember, it was printed like that. And here you can see the support material that's gotten laid down to support the upper ledge of that groove. And so let me see if I can get the camera put down here in a way that you can see, and I'll try to take it all apart here. But again, it's flexible, so if I just peel this out, you know, out comes the support material, and there's my embossed area. Looking pretty good. Let's take this one out. And there's that. So I like that. That looks pretty good. And I like this texture it picks up from the build plate. And now this part sometimes is a little tricky, but let's see. And there's the support material out. But there you can see that groove. And there's my part. Now I opted not to build the bend into it, and you can see I just put a relief in the back right at where I want that to go around the corner, so it's a little easier to get it to go around the corner. And that meant I didn't have to deal with the surfaces being, you know, different in any of these areas. And again, I'm maybe chickening out, but I'm really happy with how that looks. Let's go see how this looks in the car. Okay, here's the one I printed straight up, and you can see it's very same surface and very shiny. Compared to the one we just pulled off of here. I'm trying to get it so it's in the reflection, and you can see it's much more matte, and with those different surface textures, it just looks more like a production part. I think so anyway. But I will say I'll miss the tap, because this is a great idea. I really like this. You just grab it and boom, out it comes. But anyway, let's put this one in and see how it looks. That's it. There it is in place. So now I just go into Fusion, make a mirror image of that, print one of these, and we will be all set. And then one print job later, and we have the driver's side console cover printed and fitted. And so, you know, a nice match set of those, and that's one other little project off the checklist. But let me know what you think about this. Because of the scanner and the printer and all that, I've been spending a little bit of time, you know, posting this tech stuff in the computer screens. Give me some feedback. Is that of interest to you, or would you rather just say, you know, show us the part once it's done and keep working on the build stuff to get this thing running? Oh, and the other thing is, I'm waiting for the plenum to come back from powder coat. So fingers crossed it looks as good as I hope it looks. That's going to be pretty exciting. And the next little of unique Ferrari-ness is this low pressure return line. This is the output from the low pressure return. And as you've seen in the past, this is the line. And so check out what it has to do. It has to come out of the engine and get through this fitting, and then into the line up to the oil cooler. So check this out. So there's this Allen key through hole threaded part that holds, I gotta kind of do it this way, that screws into the case and allows the oil to come out and flow into that. And then it gets this cap that screws on just over the banjo fitting, if you will. But how trippy is that? And then the other fun part is these seals are, they call it a dowdy washer. It's part rubber and part fabric-y sort of a thing. And there's one that goes on the inside around these threads on that hollow bolt. And then one for this outer. And these are like 35 bucks a piece. So it's just more fun with Ferrari. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this installed now. It's the final stretch of putting this thing together. All the parts are in, so I've got to put a few things together on the motor, and it will be ready to go in the car for the last time before we try to fire it. So let me get this done. And it may not look any different, but that is one buttoned up motor ready to be mated to the trans. The Hill Engineering throwout bearing has been installed, and I didn't bother filming it. It's just tedious, but it is a little bit interesting in that This throw-up bearing is crazy. It rides on this big, huge aluminum flange where oil's pumped in through this flange and into here, hydraulic fluid, right? And actuates this thing. And it seems overly complex, but it may be because this gearbox is the exact same setup as what's used in the paddle shifter version of this trans that has to be shifted by a hydraulic computer-controlled pump system and blah-de-blah. So I'm wondering if that's why this is so complicated. For instance, this pin, where it just runs a roll pin in the manual version, this is replaced in the F1 system by this magnetic sensor, so the thing knows when the clutch is disengaged or engaged and all this other magical crap. And, you know, it's this kind of a thing, right? There are these springs that have this little seat that they sit into that runs into the back of this aluminum flange that bolts to the case, and getting this thing put together is just crazy fun. And then once it's partially installed on the seals, it's got these step pins that clip into this little section and are a thrill to put in because it requires this oddball special Ferrari tool, which I wasn't going to pay like 150 bucks for, so I made my own, so that you can reach this, you know, split component over the pin and then get it onto the nut surface back there and tighten this thing down, torque it to spec and all that good stuff. So one less thing to do that will be absolutely critical to getting the car running. And then I got sucked in the world of 3D printing again, and I had forever been plugging the hole protecting from getting into the trans, as you know, getting into the dry sump tank. This is the dry sump tank for the oiling system that wraps around the differential. So spoiler alert, you already saw it, but I printed this at the Red Barn branded little cover plate, so that instead of just shoving a plastic container down in there, I have something that keeps junk from falling in there, and I can secure it down with some bolts, with some nuts. But that was kind of fun to make, another little project. But the trans is essentially all ready to go. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. So as always, like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned as always for a little bit of a Wazo update. He's doing great, by the way, so it's always fun to check him out, and he is a absolute cracker. But anyway, again, thanks for watching. Talk to y'all again real soon. Everybody take care. Bye-bye. Time for a quick Wazo update. Here he is on the front porch, and we've got a full-blown catio out here. So our whole front porch is enclosed so that Pandora, our indoor cat, can get some outdoor time. And this guy is feeling really good. He's gaining a bunch of weight, and you can see nothing slows him down. He is just having a great time. So, just a quick Wazo update.